So when we laid the foundation 10 years ago, we took as many people who would come. Some of us had very few skills, me for example, and we had our contractor would assist us in saying, these are the things that you can do. Even when the contractor and their employees were not here, there were things that we could do. It was just fun because we would talk in between. There would be a number of people working on different things. We actually worked on framing because they had a person here who was really competent at framing. So we could just do things that that person would tell us to do. The big part of all of that was really that we were working with each other. We were together doing this project, building this building. What it does for the congregation, I think, is it's your building. You had a part of it. And whether that's in giving or volunteering or whatever that turns out to be, it's something special. I would tell you that I didn't necessarily believe that I would see the next phase of it. But now I am very excited. I think anyone who's in heaven looking down on this, and there are a number of us who didn't get to see it finished completely, who are just saying, yeah, go. Pour that next foundation and build that next piece of it, because our hearts are into the complete thing. I believe God is into the complete thing.
At Grace Point, in the southern corner of our campus, there's an old home, and it's inside this home that all of our pastors and staff have their offices. And a year ago, in the spring of 2025, the center section of the home lost all electricity. And so the pastors immediately contacted the trustees who oversee the building and grounds at the church.
Right, so when Brent gave me a call and said, hey, come down, the power just went out. I don't know much about electricity, so we got our local electrician to come out and look at it. And what he found was old wiring that was original to the house, and the house is like 100 years old. Cloth-coated wire that was had failed. In fact, a section of it had actually caught fire inside the wall at some point. He fixed the immediate problem, made it safe, but the wiring is so confused with all the additions and stuff that have been done throughout its life that you couldn't turn that light off in that room anymore that he fixed. So what needed to happen was that the entire house needed to be rewired, and they needed to, pull the old wire out, put new stuff in, which means opening up walls. A significant thing, and the cost estimate we got was $100,000. The thought of putting $100,000 into that house that had other issues, big issues, structural, we've had to kind of prop up the patio so it didn't fall down, all kinds of, we could put a whole lot of money into that, and we would still have an old house that was worth the same amount that it's worth right now. And so it would just be throwaway money, and that did not make sense. So immediately we started thinking about, well, what are the other options? And the first thing we thought of was, we could get a modular building.
That was a suggestion he brought, and I thought, feels like it's a lot of work potentially for very little gain. It's something that you're not going to want afterwards. It's just kind of there. It doesn't fit the building. It doesn't necessarily look right. It felt like it was potentially about the same cost as, say, some of the renovations that would be needed for the office space. And so it was like, felt like just a sideways move. You're trading sort of one problem for another set of problems. So I started thinking about more of a permanent solution, something that we could actually make progress on the full vision of the church building. And we always planned on building the sanctuary first, but the needs that we currently have, the office space, just felt like that had to be taken care of immediately. It's not something we can really hold off on any longer, and so this thought popped into my head. It was like, well, why don't we just build the other side first, the wing first, the office wing first?
Yeah, so when I talked to Brian and he said, well, instead of doing that, why don't we just build the first wing? I felt stupid because I hadn't thought of it. And it just made sense. And it was something, it's a smaller piece. It's something we could do without incurring more debt and still keep making progress on the mortgage that we have. But this would just move us forward in the overall building, and it solves so many problems. With this idea of building the wing, we're not taking $100,000 and pouring it into this house that it's essentially throwaway money. Where if we take it and we invest it in this new build, this wing that is part of the overall plan, it's a step towards the future, the full build out of the church that has been a plan for 12, 15 years now. It's that ability to take a step forward rather than to just maintain the status quo is kind of that's what swung me to thinking this is a great idea. So next I shared the wing idea with Troy Johnson. Troy's response really surprised me because he paused and looked at me kind of odd and then smiled and said, funny that you should say that, because I've been working with Doug Braddock, the contractor that built the sanctuary or built the church that we have, and he brought up the idea of possibly building one of the wings if we aren't ready to move ahead with the full build out. And the timing was so totally independent, coming from a completely different direction. Timing was too perfect. And so from that, the idea just wouldn't go away. I finally got up the courage to go to Brent with it, because this is kind of a big thing to lay on a pastor. And so I sat down in his office and said, I have an idea. And his response was,
And that is not what I had on my bingo card to think about a year I'm taking a 7-week sabbatical. I mean, I'm going to be gone in a few months, and you want me to think about a building project right now? So I told him, yeah, I'll think about that, but it was literally the worst idea I have ever heard.
So he was about to go on sabbatical, but he said he would pray about it, think about it, and it was truly like the day before he left. And I said, well, could you at least think about maybe what you'd want the office to look like?
Again, the worst idea. You're telling me the day before I go on sabbatical that I have homework? You want me to I don't know what I want an office wing to look like. I haven't even thought about that. I have no frame of reference. Don't put that on me. Why would I want to think about that? So I graciously told Dave, yeah, I'll think about what I want in a wing on my sabbatical, but I really didn't plan on putting too much thought into it because I had no frame of reference. I didn't know what I would want an office wing to look like, or what that even would look like in the space we're looking for. I've seen offices at churches, but usually they're built around a church and not in a single hallway. So I went on my sabbatical, and while I was in California, I had coffee with a good friend of mine. His name is Doug Pittum. He's the pastor of the San Luis Obispo Church of the Nazarene. When I lived on the Central Coast, he and I would meet regularly with some other pastors for breakfast. Good accountability partner. We've stayed in contact, and we had coffee and talked about ministry. But when we were done, I was about to leave, and he said, hey, why don't you come on over to the church with me? I want to show you something we've added on to our building. And I said, sure. And so we come over there, and he's all, I want you to see our new office wing. I said, you just built an office wing? He's all, yeah, on the bottom floor of one of our existing buildings, we just put in a long office wing. And I started walking through this office wing they just completed. And as I'm walking through, it blew me away, because this is very similar to the kind of space that Dave was talking about, that he wanted me to think about. What would I want an office to look like? And here I am walking through a just built office hallway that is like very similar dimensions of what Dave had been talking about. And I'm just like, whoa. I mean, when the Lord starts putting different pieces together out of nowhere, here I am walking through a completed building project that is a template for the kind of project I was just told to consider. And so I'm like, Lord, what are you up to? And I asked Pastor Doug, my friend, I said, hey, is there someone at your church that handles the plans, the blueprints that you could talk to for me? And he's all, well, you can talk to him yourself. He's just down the hall. We went down the hall. I met this man. I said, hey, we're considering the possibility of building something very similar to this. I said, is there any way I could get a scan of your blueprints or something like that? And he said, come with me. We went to a back boiler room of his church, and there was a stash of all these maps and blueprints and stuff, and he started digging through them, and he pulled one out. He's all, I knew we had one. And he handed it to me, and I said, do I need to go make a copy of this? He's all, no, that's our last copy. We don't need it. We still have the master. You can have that. And so now I am driving away, and the blueprints for an idea of what I would want an office wing to look like is right next to me in the car. And I just started praying, Lord, is this a direction you are sending us at Grace Point?
So I get a text from Brent. He's on sabbatical. We're not supposed to hear from him. Thinking, what in the world's going on? And it's a video, and it's a very excited Brent, his voice walking down a hallway of a office that was remarkably similar in size to what we were looking at. I got a call that there was a set of blueprints at the church for me, which I didn't know what that was. Why? But I went and picked them up, and it was blueprints for the church from the video. When I looked at them, it was, again, just remarkable how similar that building footprint was, and also its function. And it was another one of those God moments. It's like, this is something real.
The clear needs of the building problems arose, and it became, well, Lord, how do you want to direct us with this? So time, weeks, months have been passed of prayer and coming back to it and refocusing on it, only to see that sparks were raised in different individuals about God ultimately has a vision for this church that was birthed years ago. And this past year, it has been amazing to see as month by month we look at the budget of the church versus what the giving has been, and see an increase month over month. When the board saw the increase in the giving, the prayers were directed in, Lord, how and in what ways are we to utilize this? And in that seeking the Lord, he has brought confirmation and leading towards this new building direction.
So we took the blueprints, I shared them with Troy. Troy, I think, shared them with Doug, Braddock, the contractor. And when Brent got back from sabbatical, we sat down and Doug had already kind of scratched in some ideas that were different than the original plans from the original architect for a building. As we began to look and kind of plan and dream about what this would look like, it became very clear that we didn't need all of that space for offices and that there could be other uses. The church could have a lot of other uses for that space besides just the offices. This could be more than just an office wing.
So you say you want to build a ministry wing. Well, you've come to the right place. Let me take you through our ministry wing guide. First things first, you need a place to put it. This looks like a good place right here. That's right, our ministry wing will be on the southwest corner of our existing building. There will be an entrance through an office area on the south side of the wing, and you can also enter a hallway into the wing from within our existing building. Our nursery area will be totally redesigned so that a hallway can be used to enter the wing from inside the building. Now that we have our location, we need some blueprints. Here's some right here. But let's simplify things a bit. That's more like it. Let's take a tour within the building of what each of these spaces will give Grace Point. First, let's look at the office spaces which will be utilized by Grace Point. Our current office spaces have very thin walls and the staff have to share spaces, and there's not a lot of privacy for counseling or study. However, the new wing will have dedicated spaces for each staff member and pastor, and pastors will be able to counsel and study, speak on the phone without having everyone in the office hear what's going on. There will be office spaces that will be used for the heart of pastoral ministry. Sermons will be written, youth group lessons will be made, children's plans will be printed, and our office manager will greet Grace Point visitors with a smile as always. Our next stop is a dedicated conference room in the ministry wing. Not only will this be used for staff meetings and board meetings, but also different ministries can use it for their council meetings, such as our women's council or our missions council. Variety of uses for a dedicated conference room that doesn't need to be set up or broken down. By far, one of the most exciting uses of the ministry wing will be moving our entire children's department out of the existing kids' house and moving them into the main building. The nursery and the children's department will be located right at the same entrance to the ministry wing. Parents will be able to drop nursery and kids off in the same spot and pick them up in the same spot, and the kids will remain with them in the building they're worshiping in. Our children will have a great room as large as the great room that they currently have in the kids' house, as well as 2 classrooms that are larger than the classrooms in the kids' house, as well as a dedicated bathroom for children, and our children's area will be secured by doors so that they can only be accessed through the check-in area. Our teens currently meet in the sanctuary. They don't have a dedicated space for them to meet in right now. However, another equally exciting benefit of the ministry wing is that when the kids are moved out of the kids' house, our teens can then take over the kids' house and make it a teen house and have a weekly place to meet and call their own. It's also valuable that our ministry wing will have ample storage space, closets, a janitor's closet, and also a walk-in attic that can house things like Christmas decorations that are currently in the barn that can be put in our main building and away from pests and rodents. So storage will not be a problem in the new ministry wing. With the current office no longer being needed, we can tear that old house down and put no more money into it, which will free up new parking spaces for our community events and also for church use. Between these spaces and the spaces that will be added along the ministry wing, we should gain around 35 parking spaces in our lot. And last, but certainly not least, the addition of the ministry wing will finally give us proper space to reintroduce Sunday school at Grace Point. We will have the conference room for an adult Sunday school classroom with its own entrance outside of the kids department. All of our children will have Sunday school spaces in the ministry wing. We have the fireside room and the prayer room in our main building. Our teens will have Sunday school space in the kids' house, which will be the teens' house, and also the front entrance lobby area of the kids' house will be used for an adult Sunday school classroom. There will be space for all to have Sunday school at Grace Point again. All of these uses, all of these blessings, all from one wing. Not just an office wing, but truly a ministry wing at Grace Point.